Following conversation is with Shaggy. Shaggy and I went to college together at SNC, which is a small college in Tahoe. We studied business, and Shaggy was a competitive skier. Since college, he's continued to follow his passions as a skier, living out of his van, traveling all over the country and even abroad, doing all sorts of adventures. We talk about these adventures, and we talk about how he's balanced his career and his flexible lifestyle, what he's done for remote work, and how he started his own companies. Most recently, he had a lot of success as a Christmas light installer out of Salt Lake City, and he's looking forward to this upcoming season where he's going to try to 10x his results from last year. Towards the end of the conversation, Shaggy kind of flipped the conversation on me, getting some of my takes in a way that not anyone else as a guest on my podcast has done so far. I appreciated his insights. He honestly had me reflecting on some of my own plans, my own ambitions, and he got me thinking critically about what steps I need to take to realize those visions. This was a great conversation with Shaggy, and I'm looking forward to see what he does as he moves forward with all his creative passion. All right, Shaggy, thanks for coming on. It's been a while since we caught up, but we went to school together. I had to pull out the SNC shirt today since that's how we know each other. It's a small school in Tahoe, really cool school. I loved it. It's since been bought by UNR, so it's no longer exists as it was, but it's still there, the buildings and everything. But yeah, man, how you doing? It's cool to have you on.
Yeah, never better, man. I'm glad you reached out, and it's great to see you again.
Yeah, one of our mutual friends from school had told me that you're up to some cool things, that you've been doing cool things. And so, yeah, I just wanted to catch up and figure out what's going on. And as always, these conversations, I'm trying to figure out what are your values in the context of your story. So start with your story, and I'll kind of dig in as we come into the areas where I'm feeling your values coming through. And I just wanted to start.
Totally.
You had on Instagram the other day, you posted that you've got a goal to do a 50K in the summer, and you just had a toe surgery, so you're not even up and walking, let alone up and running yet. So I just wanted to dive right in there, right in the middle. Can you tell me exactly what that goal is and how you decided to go after that? Where you're at right now?
Yeah. So real quick, I had two surgeries in December, back to back, the 16th and the 17th of December. So that was a Monday and a Tuesday. One surgery I needed, and then one was kind of just nice to get. The toe surgery was the one that I needed. I had accidentally, impatiently made a cut with a razor blade for myself when I was helping a friend with a project, just like a van flooring kind of thing. And the cut was it was a good cut, but it wasn't too bad. And I walked around for like 5 or 6 weeks. Then I realized that I actually did need surgery after that because the first urgent care doctor had misinformed me of how bad it was. But anyway, then I got scheduled for surgery for my toe because I had to reconnect the tendon just on like the last little joint. So like right there on your big toe though. And I was like, hey, I've always had this plate on my collarbone. So I figured I might as well get it removed because I was already going to have all the downtime from my toe. And the collarbone, it doesn't really bother me except when I'm in the gym, but I figured I might as well get it done. And then so I wanted to come back, or I am going to come back in the best shape of my life. So I was like, I need some sort of like goal, some sort of activity that I'm like actually going to go do. And so there's a 50K called the Speed Goat, and it's in Utah. It's literally like 20 minutes that way from where I'm sitting, just right up the mountain. And I did it last year. It was a ton of fun. It was really hard, and I completed it, and I felt good about that. And I was like, okay, so there's part of the ingredient. And then I also wanted to do like a weightlifting piece. So my goal is on the 26th of July. I'm going to deadlift 405 for 3 reps. I'm going to back squat 315 for 3 reps. Then I'm going to clean 225 for 3 reps. And then I'm immediately going to drive up the mountain and then go run a 50K. So that's that's
Awesome.
where that all comes from. And I'm excited. And so I've been down about 6 or 7 weeks now. I wasn't able to walk at all. Like I was non-weight bearing for the first week with the toe. And then after that, I was wearing a boot for about 6 weeks, maybe like 4 to 5 weeks actually. And then literally as of this morning, I went on my first run this morning. I ran about a mile.
Nice.
I
How'd it
did a
feel?
little bit of jogging yesterday. It felt really good. Like I was definitely like the cardio was hard because I haven't been doing that sort of stuff recently. But the actual toe, like I had zero toe pain, which is really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good sign, man. That's sweet. Was the last year when you did the 50K, was that the first time you've done a 50K? Or is
Yes.
this something that you do?
No, that was the first organized race I've ever done.
Nice.
So I've always kind of enjoyed running and like trail running specifically, but I didn't take it too seriously. And then I was like looking for something like hard to do, like a Masogi style thing.
Yeah,
And people were talking about the Speedgoat 50K. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. It's got like 11.3 thousand feet of vert, so like it's
that's
a
crazy.
lot of
Yeah,
elevation.
that's crazy.
Um, and my only goal was to beat the time cap, which was 13 hours, and it took me 11 hours to do. So I was happy.
That's awesome. It's interesting. So I did my first organized race last year, uh, in March,
Nice.
so almost a year ago, and that was a 50K
Which
too.
one?
The Chuckanut 50 in up in Washington. But same kind of
Nice,
idea.
dude.
And I love how you just have this mindset of like, I'm gonna just go all the way for the craziest version. Um, and for me, like from a training perspective, I feel like that's like a goal that I was like, I think I can probably do that. Like that's like I don't know, like I've never done that, but it's like I think that's within like my body's realm of capabilities, and but like at the edge, at least in my mind, that was the perceived edge going into it. And it was fun to have a goal like way at that far out limit. Is that kind of something that you go for in life? Is that like you kind of like to
Yeah.
feel out where's the limit and like what's a goal that like I might be able to do, but also I might fail? Is sometimes
Hmm.
it's hard to set out for a goal like that. It's one thing like I'm gonna go for a goal that I'll definitely be able to do, but maybe I won't excel. It's different to be like I might not even be able to do that at all. But is that part of your agenda?
Yeah. Dude, I think like pushing yourself, it's kind of crazy how much further you can go when you like set such a high goal. Like,
Yeah,
if I set like I don't know, run 10 miles or something like that, like I would definitely would have been able to do it. But like a 50K is like, that was kind of hard to wrap your brain around running 31 miles.
yeah.
Um, and so like, yeah, I definitely think like having a goal that's like pretty hairy and audacious is always nice. And plenty of times you don't actually accomplish it, but you get really close, and that's where a lot of the benefit comes from as well.
Yeah, I like that saying of like aim for the stars, you'll probably at least hit the moon, or I'm butchering it, but it's something like that. Like
Yeah,
shoot for something lofty, like even if you don't hit it all the way, like you're gonna land on something cool. And then when you do hit it, it makes it way more fun. Um, that's cool, man. And so you're an athlete. I remember you were a highly competitive skier back in college. Is that still your main jam?
skiing is still one of my favorite hobbies. I don't compete anymore. I just do it for the love of skiing, and yeah, that's a lot of the reason why I moved into a van and traveled full time was to
Yeah.
go skiing.
And I want to jump back into the van life thing since that's something I find super interesting. But just to fill out the skiing, what's like are you more into the tricks? Are you into speed? Like what's your most competitive areas of skiing, or do you just love everything about it?
I mean, I love pretty much everything about it. I'd say the thing that I am the best at is skiing rails.
Okay.
Um, that I'm decent at jumps, and then I'm also pretty good at like big mountain stuff. So I guess like ski touring and skiing inbounds at a place like Alta and Snowbird. Those are like my two favorite things because those are kind of quite opposite skiing rails, but then also skiing big mountain is like they don't really go hand in hand, but they're both a ton of fun. So those were my two main things. And then also with like ski touring, that's where you go up the mountain. Like you use your own skis and equipment to just like kind of make your way up. And you can go basically anywhere because you don't need a chairlift or anything like that. So that's also fun, kind of goes in line with trail running.
Yeah, yeah, that's a cool that's different, but I'm sure that the cardio aspect transfers over really well. I imagine it's slow
Yeah.
sledding going uphill.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's
And
cool. Like you probably have a full
yeah.
day where you just get one or two runs in. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You got like a decent sized backpack and then, of course, skis on your feet. So those slow you down.
yeah. Do you do like alpineer like mountaineering stuff as well, or only for
No,
the sake of
I
skiing?
usually I'm kind of not really. Usually with skiing, I don't have like a super high risk tolerance for like avalanche and for gnarly terrain style things. Like I'm just there for the turns. I do like to go in like some couloirs and some fun areas and stuff like that. But then I've been like canyoneering, and that's in the summertime, so there's nothing, no snow to be seen, and that stuff's pretty fun. Yeah, I went down Birch Hollow Canyon in Utah, in kind of a little bit north of Zion National Park. And that was a ton of fun. I think it was 9 different rappels, and you're just going all through this canyon, like you go down the canyon, rappel every like cliff, and then you just walk back up around.
That's awesome. And so these are things that are maybe high injury risk but low mortality risk. Is that kind of where you
For,
would say your interest lies in those types of activities?
yeah, I'd say, yeah, like getting scrapes and bruises is pretty consistent. And then honestly, even things like breaking bones or tearing ligaments is like knock on wood, but I think I've only broken a few bones skiing ever, and I've never torn a ligament. And then yeah, mortality, I guess it happens, but pretty infrequently.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you said that you're going for things with low avalanche risk, and
Yeah.
with things like with sports like I'm not a big risk taker. Like, and I do risks injuries. I've been a sports player, and I've had ligament issues and all kinds of stuff. But when it comes to I say I'm a land animal. Anything when I'm off my feet, when
Yep.
I'm on skis, when I'm on a snowboard, like I got into it in Tahoe, but I didn't. It's not my thing. It's not something that I I'm super confident with. I don't get a
I
thrill out
hear
of
you.
adrenaline. So it's interesting hearing other people's kind of threshold with adrenaline, and it sounds like you're calculated, but at the same time you're out there pushing the limits, which is cool. Um, all right, so let's jump to something you mentioned a little bit ago, the van life.
Yes.
I That's something so I did that for a little while. I had a bus back
Yeah,
in
I
school.
remember.
Yeah, and I love that. I love the build out. It was it's a super cool way of life. I loved knowing how much water I was using, how much electricity I was using, how much waste I was creating. Like being in touch with all that is something that I don't know. That was those were my main takeaways. Things I didn't expect, things that you couldn't really expect before doing it, but that resonated. But what was your agenda in hitting the road? What did you want to get out of it, and then uh, what did you get, and maybe what are some of the unexpected things you found along the way?
Yeah. So, well, real quick, you on your bus build, I remember you like elevated the roof, which is a very gnarly project because that
Yeah,
involved a lot of like welding and measuring and fabricating
yeah,
and stuff like that. So, congrats for you, dude, because
yeah,
that is not easy. So,
yeah.
I'm hyped you were able to do that. Okay, I think I'll start with how I got into van life and then answer like the what I found and things like that. So I after college I knew well, okay, let's put it this way. I grew up watching the Lion Traveling Circus, and most of you probably don't know what that is, but it's a YouTube series about a bunch of like ridiculous, crazy skiers kind of just living in a van and traveling and going and skiing all these ridiculous places and doing like silly things. Not like super hardcore skiers, like just like let's have fun, let's be as ridiculous as humanly possible. And so that was actually the biggest inspiration for me to live in a van because I just like grew up watching that and I was like, this is crazy. You can do that. And then so we graduated college at the same time in May 2019. And my lease ended at the end of May. And I moved into my car. And I spent about 2 to 3 months in my car. And I was just working two jobs, one in a restaurant, the other one in a gym, just to save money and just to not be tied down with a lease. And I'd actually bought my van in January 2019. So I'd already bought it before I graduated, but I needed a lot more money to like be able to build it out and to like kind of live that lifestyle and like figure out how to work online for myself and a couple other things. So I knew that if I just lived in a car and worked in a restaurant and a gym, I was like I could work a lot of hours and it was just going to be for a couple months. And then I read the 4 Hour Work Week probably a year or two before I graduated. And I wanted to just work for myself on the internet and do like the whole 4 hour work week. And fortunately, I was able to do that for quite some time. And so when I was done being in Tahoe, living in my car, I'd saved up just enough. And I'd also got my first client for freelancing. So I was a freelance copywriter. And copywriting is sales in the written forms. That's a lot of SEO and email marketing. And of course, for this first client, I was kind of just like a hodgepodge of I was like more like half writing, half an assistant to the CEO. So it's kind of like, and it was 100% remote, and that was the first time I've ever been remote. So I was excited to do that, but wasn't quite like the sexiest job, let's say. Um, and then I was able to go back to Placerville, where my mom and stepdad live, and they have a good enough garage for me to build the van out, which was a really nice asset. And I'm very thankful they were let me live home and that they also had the resources for me to come do that. And so, yeah, I thought it was going to take me 3 months to build out my van. It took me about 7 months, so I was pretty frustrated because I really just wanted to like go, and I was working or I was building the van like a lot, like at least 50 hours, if not 80 hours a week. Like it was the only thing I did because I didn't really have friends back home. I mean, I had my parents, which is awesome, but I didn't really have like much of a social life, so I was pretty much just grinding. And there's a lot of like setbacks and hard things because I'd never really built many things with my hands. So I was just attending the prestigious university of YouTube. And that's how I learned how to build my van. And then also shout out to my brother. He's an electrical engineer. So he builds surgical robots for a living. So being able to ask him for any sort of like solar and wiring questions, he basically designed my battery and solar system, and then I assembled it. So that was another great resource to have. And then yeah, and like for me, I really cared about skiing, and I wanted to do that more than I wanted to do anything else in this world. So that was the reason I lived in a van, is so I could go to all these places, all throughout North America, and go skiing wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And I was just working from the laptop. And at first, I was probably working like 20-ish hours a week. And then once I got better at writing copy and had a better client base, I was working like literally 5 to 10 hours a week and just traveling, just living off of um, not much. At first, it was about $800 a month for like literally everything, like diesel and car insurance and phone bill and business expenses, which were pretty small, but like website hosting, a couple other things. And then towards the end, it was closer to like 12 or $1,300 a month because it was like I might as well buy some nice to have things and a few other things like that. So it's really affordable because that's like literally every cent I was spending. And I was just able to, like, for 4 years, literally it was 1,364 days I traveled daily. Like every single day, I would just wake up and be like, all right, I have like 5 hours of work to do this week. So what do I want to do? I want to go skiing. Do I want to go running? Do I want to hang out with friends? Do I want to go biking, go explore somewhere new? Do I want to drive a state over? And I'd never spent more than 1 month per state at a time. So there's plenty of states like the West Coast, Utah, and some other ones that I would come back to consistently. But I never was in a state more than a month, and usually it was like a week or two in like a town. Then I'd go to the next one and maybe come back or go on further. And for me, that was like ultimate freedom. I was like, I was living a very frugal lifestyle, and I still am, but like I wasn't really worried about money, and I had like anything I wanted to do in any location I could go do. And during COVID, I was able to do that still during COVID. So at first it was like kind of weird because a lot of people weren't trying to hang out, and like traveling was like you're not really supposed to do that. So I did like post up. I was in Washington for the first little bit, then I was in California for the second little bit, but I'd still kind of bounce around a little bit. But I was more cognizant of like not going and seeing all my friends and hanging out with them outside and not really going inside and things like that. But that shaped up pretty quickly, or we got back to normal pretty quickly. um, and then I just kept going, and I even went to Asia. I just packed a 30 or is a 27-liter backpack. I lived in Asia for 3 months, just going all around Indonesia for 2 months and then Thailand for a month. And it's dirt cheap out there, like dirt cheap. I was spending 800 to 900 bucks a month, and I had like traveler's insurance, which is also medical insurance, and I was renting mopeds, and I ate out almost every single meal, and I was sleeping in like a good, nothing crazy, but like good hostels and like or like little bungalows and things like that. Like I was definitely being frugal, but I wasn't skimping out. Like I wasn't like sleeping in the rain outside or anything like that. Like it was pretty nice living. And then I was on 8 different islands in Indonesia, and it's literally like anywhere from $3 to $10 to get a boat ride to a new island that could be a couple hours away. And then you just show up and you just rent a moped and you just start cruising around, and you never really plan anything. Like a lot of the times I wouldn't plan where I was sleeping that night until like 4 to 6 p.m. And you just go on Hostel World on your phone, and you can see a couple different like nice hostels and stuff, and you show up in person and you make sure it's kind of like what you're looking for. Because there's a lot, I don't drink anymore, but there's a lot of like party hostels and things like that. And then there's also a lot of like digital nomad traveler kind of co-working hostels, and they're like a really big different vibe. And when you're looking on your phone, it's kind of hard to tell the difference because they're both nicer hostels. But like there's plenty of places that are like more digital nomad traveler heavy. So those are people that I vibe with more. And yeah, and then I actually spent a week in the hospital when I was in Indonesia. And what happened is I got bit by a mosquito, which kind of happens all the time. Like, every few days you get a couple bites. But one of them had dengue fever. And so I spent a whole week in the hospital and I didn't even know what was wrong with me at first. Like I couldn't sleep for a whole night and I was like sweating profusely in like a 65-degree room. Like I had like soaked through the mattress. Like it was crazy. And I was like, oh, it must have been a fluke, whatever. I'll just like keep living, just like don't do a bunch of physical activity. Like kind of just play it easy. And then a few days of that, and I like literally wasn't sleeping, and I was like going bananas because like when you're so fatigued and you want to sleep but you can't sleep, like it's a really difficult place to be mentally. And then I spent a whole week in the hospital, and I didn't even see the sun or anything like that. And it was like $250 was my deductible because I had health insurance. Like, it was really affordable. Like I almost saved money by being in the hospital. Not quite because I spent zero money doing anything fun. Uh, and then that actually showed me it was kind of like a similar to like a meditation retreat where it kind of showed me what I wanted to do next in life. Because at this point, I think it was about maybe 3.5 years of traveling literally every single day. And with work, like work was amazing. Like I was just writing a lot of emails and blog posts and doing some other SEO work, but it wasn't like I wasn't building something to my future. Like I was more like doing it because it was the easiest way to make money and I could travel. Like it was like a means to an end. And then I had the desire. I had consistently been having the desire to build like something that provided fulfillment and something that I was proud of in my life. And then when I was really sick in the hospital, it was like one of the symptoms of dengue fever is like you just get chronically depressed out of nowhere. And so in one of those depression states, I was like, I wrote a lot. I was like, hey, if I died right now, what would I regret? And I had like a handful of things, and one of those was building an event company. And so I was like, okay, so I should, I'm in Asia, so I should go travel a little bit more, but then I should go back to Utah because that's where I spent the most time and I love it the most. I should go start this event company. And so I travel around Indonesia a little bit more. Then I go to Thailand for about a month. That was crazy. Tons of fun things out there, really good food. And then I even bought a one way when I was in Thailand. I was in Chiang Mai, but I bought a one way ticket to Bangkok and had nothing planned. So I literally just showed up at the airport and I told myself I couldn't make plans until I got off the plane. So then I showed up at the airport, got off the plane, and I was like, man, what do I want to do? This is a wild city. Where do I even go? And I was like, oh, I'm hungry. I should go find some food. So I was like, in Thailand, all the letters, like the alphabet is different. So like you can't really make out what signs say. Like you're really lost. Like you really feel like a foreigner. Versus Indonesia, they still use like the ABC alphabet that English speakers use, like us. So you can kind of make out what things are saying, or you can like recognize things. But there, it's literally just scribbles. You're just like, oh, I don't even know what that means. But I got on a train, went to Chinatown, walked around, and got a bunch of street food. So that was a ton of fun. And then ended up back in the U.S. And then I went to Utah to like settle in on like starting this event company. And I was there for probably like 2 or 3 months. And that was a really good time. I made some progress on the event company. And then I realized after hosting 3 events, I was like, man, I know nothing. Like I went from working on a laptop to like, let's get a bunch of people in person together. And it was like really different. And I had like not, aside from being an extrovert, I had like none of the skill sets of hosting events or anything like that. And
Real quick.
then, yeah, yeah.
When you're in the hospital, you're writing, you're going through the emotional, dengue fever symptoms, and
Hmm.
you kind of get hit with this. I want to do events. What about that thought? Like, what did you feel, or so I guess what was your gut feeling on that? But then also, like, what were the logical components? Like, what were you like? Oh, I've done these types of experiences, or I have met the most people at events. Like what were kind of the components that went into this realization that you wanted to change course?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest hunger was to build something that provided me fulfillment. Like build a company that the point of that company is to build that company versus like freelancing. The point of freelancing is to make money and go travel. And of course I'm like
Mhm.
helping people and stuff, but it's not like I wanted something that like the point of building it was to build it. And so I had a couple different ideas. E-commerce was one idea. Um, Events was like another idea, and I just sat down and I was like weighing the option between a couple of these different things. And I realized that ultimately, if I went with e-commerce, I was going to have the pretty much the same problems I have now of traveling every day. And at that point, just me personally, the three big problems I have was a lack of community because I'm always in a different place, and it's like it's kind of hard to explain because I had friends everywhere, and I was like really easy for me to make friends, especially skiing when half the time you're on a chairlift next to someone.
Mhm.
So I'd say that I had friends everywhere, and I'd meet friends really quickly, but it has a different feeling than community, and I didn't have that community. Like I didn't have that experience. Like I didn't have that consistency in my life. And then dating, it was impossible to like try and hold a girlfriend when you're really never in an area for more than a month. So like a relationship might have been like 2 weeks at that point in my life, and that was like I valued that and I wanted to get better at that. And then the last thing was like trying to build a company. A couple times when I was traveling full time, I tried to start an e-commerce store, and it was just like because I'm traveling full time, I have no routine and consistency, and it's like pushing water up a hill because all your energy and time and decision making energy go to traveling, which is super
Right.
fun and addicting. Versus like building a company, you need to be like more serious and like consistently showing up to it, even if it's not fun.
Gotcha.
And then so
So,
I what
so
uh-huh.
events kind of you felt like that would kind of give you the stability of place and community, um,
Hmm.
and then also routine. Interesting. And
Yes.
then did like what about your personality did you think would lend well to these events? Like you've mentioned that you as you traveled, you found you were good at making friends wherever you go and kind of making connections. Is that part of it, or is it?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. Just what went into
Yeah.
that?
I mean, literally my favorite part of traveling was the people I'd meet and like doing fun things with them. So like that was, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. You travel thousands of miles sometimes, and you're like, man, like if this person was in my hometown, I would have had a really good same experience. But of course, you have to like go so far, and like you meet unique people the further away you are from where you grew up and things like that.
Sweet. Yeah, I've done some traveling myself too, and I like to do it the way I usually get an Airbnb the first night or a hotel the first night, and then
Yep.
figure it out from there. Plane ticket and one night, and then yeah, just
Yes.
go by word of mouth after that.
That is literally the best way to do it. I'm happy you
Yeah,
do that.
yeah, yeah. I've done mostly in Central America, a little bit South America, but I Southeast Asia is high up on my list of places I want to get to. Um, so yeah, it sounds from everything you're saying reinforces what I've heard that it's just a super cool experience.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
all right, so let's jump back to your story and you're getting to Salt Lake. You've got the mission now to start an event company.
Hmm.
How long ago was it that you established yourself in Salt Lake, and then how have things been going since then?
Roughly 2 years. Well, okay, let's put it this way: about 30 months ago. So the
Okay.
summer, probably like August of 2022. All right. Yeah, August of 2022. I came to Salt Lake because I had already spent the most amount of time here when I was traveling. So like, I knew naturally, like I just love the area. I've got a bunch of friends here. Cole Lyon, who's went to SNC, graduated the year after us, lives here. A couple other people from SNC also live here. So I knew this was a great area for me to like focus and actually work. And then it's also like a growing city. So like, oh, I'm hosting events and you got, a population that's already large and growing. That's a great asset to the business. Um, and so I was here for about 2 or 3 months, and I was still like traveling in and out of Utah. And I hosted three events. And then I was like, man, that was like, I know nothing. Like, I'm literally just like pushing water up a hill. It's really fun, but I'm just like, I have no idea how to market these things or to host these things or where to do it or what kind of like what problem I'm solving. Like, I just wanted to bring people together. And then I read a book called The 2 Hour Cocktail Party, and that's by Nick Gray. And then I realized that he was looking for someone and like he wanted someone to help him with PR or something. And I was like, I've done so much outreach for freelancing, like I could probably help him with that. Because I wanted to work with him so I could learn how to host better events by just working for him. And so ultimately that came of me doing a lot of the SEO and email marketing stuff that I'd previously done for clients for about 3 or 4 years. And I was just doing that for him. And then I would help him host events also, probably like every other month or something like that. And like one was in Vancouver, one was in the Bay Area, like SF, San Mateo specifically. And then one, or we did like four in Arizona. So we did like a handful of events. And so like being able to help someone and kind of learn from someone while you're getting paid to do something you actually know how to do, like copywriting, made a lot of sense because it was like accelerated learning, but also like you're kind of mixing that with something that you know how to do, and someone would pay you for that. So that, and then since I was working for him remote, I also was still very much had a skiing problem or hobby, whatever way you want to look at it. So after being in Salt Lake for 2 or 3 months, I was like, started working for Nick. I was like, okay, I should just work for him instead of doing my own thing because I can learn so much faster. And then I started to travel. I kept just skiing and traveling and stuff, but I was like working like way more than I was, probably like 30 to 40 hours a week freelancing, working with him, and yeah, probably 2 or 3 other clients as well, just to like save some money and work with him and kind of get that experience. But I was also like really diehard on skiing. And then the next summer, so this would have been summer of 2023, I was like, okay, I'm going all in. I know enough. I have enough money. I had about a year's worth of living expenses at that point. And then I moved. I went back to Salt Lake after probably 8 months of traveling, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start hosting events like really seriously. I'm going to like drop pretty much all my freelancing clients except for Nick, and then so that way I don't really have an income, but I have a ton of time to focus on events. And I think I hosted 18 in total. It was a lot of fun. I did a lot of free ones just off of like meetup.com. And then another platform is getriver.io, are the two events I'd host free events on to kind of like as like a top of funnel, like get people out, meet people and show them that you host fun events. And then I would also do paid events. And those paid events were called panel ball. So it's half panel discussion, half pickleball tournament. And so my favorite panel ball, I got the founder of chess.com to come out and give a talk about bootstrapping his company to over 100 million a year in revenue. They had about 700 employees at the time, and just like 18 years of being in business. And they were a remote first company like long before that was normal. Like that was in like 2008 or 9 or something when they started. Maybe 2007, somewhere around there. But yeah, like remote first company was like not a thing. But like they kind of just kept growing slowly, and he was trying to raise money for it, and he just like literally couldn't get people to give him money for like 5 years. He tried to get venture capitalists to back him and the company, and it didn't work, and they just kept growing slowly and slowly. But he would hire people from all over the world, so there's kind of a bit of geo arbitrage there of like he's basically just hiring the biggest chess nerds that wanted to work for him. And of course, if you're hiring people in like Eastern Europe and some other places, then it's a lot easier than trying to pay a developer in San Francisco. But anyway, he gave a whole talk about his life. Another person in specifically in entrepreneurship, but then another person we had was Tom Wallish, who's he's known as the face of free skiing. He's a professional skier, and he's built like a brand around himself. He's got like pro model boots and skis and poles, and has like some of the bigger sponsorship deals with like Monster and North Face. And now he's like announcer at the X Games and stuff. So he took like a sport like he's an athlete in, and kind of built like him as a brand and kind of built like his own company around that.
Yeah,
And so
super
he
cool.
gave a talk about that and like lost leaders and a whole bunch of other tactics and stuff. And then ultimately, so I was for the whole event company, I was about 14 months of half freelancing, half hosting events, and then 12 months of all in hosting. That was the only thing I was doing for work, and that was the only way I was going to make money. And I had like one profitable month out of 26. So I pretty much ran through all my living expenses. And I even got lucky. Someone graffitied my van, and then my insurance paid me out pretty handsomely, and I just painted it myself because it's like a truck bed liner
Mhm.
van. Like I put truck bed liner on it, so it's like really hard to redo. But I was able to do it myself and pocket most of that money. And so I was able to go with events like longer than I had money to go for. And then ultimately I got down like pretty low on or like, I just had some months of living expenses, probably like 6 or 7 months. And I was like, man, I've been doing this for a while and I'm not even close to profitability. Like it just felt like I had no idea what problem I was solving. I was kind of hosting events because I wanted to host events. And then so I was traveling on the West Coast this summer for probably like 6 weeks, just like tons of weddings and bikings and stuff, kind of just taking a break from it. And then, of course, you're in a van, so it's like really not that much more expensive to go travel somewhere because you don't have to pay anything other than diesel. Um, and then I get back to Salt Lake in September in Coal Lion. He's like, hey, dude, we should go start a Christmas light business. And I was like, that sounds awesome because it's like blue collar, but also half on your computer. And it would be really hard not to make money doing Christmas lights because that's kind of just like a service that's definitely in demand. And so we started that in October. And in total, the whole business was 63 days. Oh yeah, and real quick, based off of events, I've lost about 22 grand. Granted, most of that was living expenses, so it was like I was just like consistently working on it. I wasn't really losing. I might have made a couple $100 a month, or I might have lost a couple $100. Was usually what happened a month for directly for events, so it wasn't very expensive, but like just living expenses when you're not making money like over a year, that's how the 22 grand came up. But with Christmas lights, in 63 days, we did 57,500 in revenue and then 27.3 thousand in profit. And we
It's
made
crazy.
numerous mistakes. We'd spent too much on Facebook ads and a couple other things that were like obviously we could have like I got higher margins, but I think that's around 52-ish%
Yeah,
margins. Um,
that's crazy. What?
and
So was that all just through digital marketing? All the leads?
Dude, so him and I both have a degree in marketing. I'd spent like, 3 or 4 years freelancing, doing a lot of internet marketing. He has a good experience with internet marketing and social media and stuff. So he found specifically Cole found it, but for $14, there's an exact match domain called Salt Lake City Christmas Lights, which is like a big SEO opportunity. But that's like a lot of people are just naturally going to come to your site because of the domain itself. And so we're like, oh, dude, we're going to murder it on SEO. We're going to murder it on Facebook ads and organic and everything like that. And then what ended up doing 80% of our sales or 80% of the lead generation that converted to sales was yard signs. We placed about 280 different yard signs, which takes a really long time to go place them. And we put them at like intersections and near stop signs and like on slower roads and stuff like that. So not necessarily like customers' lawns. We did
Yeah,
put them there, but we kind of put them like throughout towns, whereas like where we actually wanted clients. And in total, we had spent about 1,100 on yard signs. We had to place them, which took a lot and then of time, and then it was about 40,000 in revenue just from yard signs.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
How strategic were you with where you put them? What was it?
pretty.
Uh, like, how'd
Mhm.
you make your map, or what was that process like? Like, what was the thinking there?
Yeah, so we literally went. We just like took a screenshot of of a map of Salt Lake City, and because we've both spent a lot of time here. I mean, he's lived here for I think he's coming up on 4 years. But anyway, between the two of us, we'd spent enough time in Salt Lake and all the different areas of Salt Lake to just generally know what was a good higher end housing area and what was like lower end we don't want to deal with. And so we just took a screenshot and we just wrote like 1 through 5 on every little town in Salt Lake, and we just targeted the fours and the fives. And what we did is we'd go to Chat GBT and we'd be like, hey, in Sandy, we want to place yard signs there for our Christmas light companies to get new customers. Here's the criteria of like where's the best place to put a yard sign, which is like, intersections, stop signs, schools, and just like all these different things of like where people are driving either slow or literally stopping. And it's also in an area that's like not really private or it's like kind of government land owned. So like you're not going to get in trouble for putting it there. And to come up with the criteria, we literally there's a Facebook group called like Christmas light installers, and like there's a bunch of the admins are like, here's where we place our Christmas lights, and like they just kind of had like a rubric of where to put them. So we literally just put that into Chat GPT, and the Chat GPT is like, at this exact location, 900 south and 300 east or wherever, place a yard sign, and then at this other location, and then you just take all those locations, you put it back into Chat GPT, and you come up with a route, like starting from Cole's house to
That's
have a route to
crazy.
go all these different places, and then end up back at Cole's house. And so, of course, there's like we had at least 8 nights, man, maybe like 6 nights. I can't quite remember, but like we spent hours placing yard signs, like
You did it at
over
night.
20 hours
Interesting.
each.
That makes sense.
Usually at night, Friday or Saturday nights were like the best because people weren't really calling us because it was literally just him and I for the business. So we're doing all the installation, we're doing all the sales, the marketing, the operations, the inventory. And so like sales, of course, is like whenever someone's calling the phone, like you pretty much drop what you're doing and answer the phone and figure out if you can help them or not. And it was just like we weren't getting that many calls on Friday and Saturday night because most people are already kind of busy. And then that's like in the nighttime, like there's just like less traffic and stuff going on.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a lot of fun. Are you going to do it again this upcoming year? Is that going to be an
Yes,
annual thing? Do you have plans
absolutely.
to
Because
do you have, what changes in approach or have you already thought about?
hire people. Like we
Yeah.
were working between 75 and 95 hours a week. And it was like there was so much time that we were installing that we're like, hey, we shouldn't be doing sales because we'll just never finish this house. And then we have three more houses to do today. And so we'd kind of like set up our own time of like when we should sell, when we should install. And whenever you're not selling, like Christmas light installation is a commodity. So like they just call the next number they can find, like either Google searching or like a yard sign or whatever. So it's like speed to lead is extremely important. And so when you literally don't have time, like you're like, we have too many sales, like we have to go install that. Like we could just hire out the labor and like really scale it up that way. So there's either two routes that we really are considering. One route, the easiest to understand, is basically him and I would do all the marketing, sales, and then like inventory and fulfillment scheduling. And then we'd subcontract all the labor out to a bunch of our friends have landscaping companies and some other blue collar
Mm,
businesses.
yeah.
And that those 2 months, like November and early December, are like two time periods where those companies are like kind of just scrounging for work. They're usually busy 9 or 10 months of the year, but those 2 months they're like not that busy. But they want to keep their guys employed, so they're kind of just like finding whatever they can to keep their guys on the clock, even if they're losing a little bit of money per job. Like the companies themselves, they really just want to keep their good labor employed. So we want to either partner with a handful of blue collar businesses to keep their labor employed. Like it's like, hey, we could keep your teams employed 2 days a week or 5 days a week or whatever, and just kind of just go about it for that. Or that's like the easy way to that's the easiest one to understand, which is basically sub out the labor, like subcontract out. And the second one would be licensing our business model. So it would be like a done with you solution for pretty much the same target or pretty much the same kind of companies, these blue collar companies that are like slow and need to keep their guys employed during this time period. And we would show them exactly how they should like market and fulfill Christmas light installation on their own, but like with their own company name. So we'd be like, all
Yeah.
right, here are some yard signs. Like we went ahead and designed them for you. You're gonna buy them from this company and then have your guys place them at these locations. And then like next after that, be like, okay, now that you have some jobs coming in, or like here's the sales process for all these leads. And then like show them here are the SOPs for like actually installing, and then like maintenance. What are the best products to buy? So you don't really have to do maintenance. And then here's how you do takedown and organize it so it's really easy for next year. Um, so those are the two ways, because we really want to like focus on the 10x mindset of like, yeah, obviously we could hire a couple people and still like do it ourselves, like still be very hands on. But if like we really just if we figure out the labor component, or we're not really doing it, we're just teaching other people how to do it, then that's how you can like really grow it.
Yeah. I like that the done with you. Would you have you thought about how you would charge? Would you do a percentage of their sales or would you do a flat fee?
Both. We'd probably do like a flat up front fee and then like a percentage of probably revenue or profit. We'd have to like think about that. Probably
Yeah.
revenue would make the most sense for
Yeah.
us.
Top line. Yeah, that I mean just sitting here on my side of the Zoom studio here, it seems like the hiring of labor crews and the landscaping makes a lot of sense. One of my buddies has a landscape design company and we're in like an entrepreneur group. So we meet doing Zoom, Discord calls every week. But yeah,
Nice.
I've kind of heard that pattern of his sales cycle that you're describing, and it makes sense too. Just that the winter months are tough, and it's important to keep that crew happy because if you got a good crew, um, that's your whole business. When the spring comes.
Yeah,
So I think that's smart. Yeah, get crews. I think that's 10x, but then that licensing seems like 10 more x after that.
totally.
Yeah, that sounds fun. And I bet that model could also apply to other. I mean, Christmas lights. I think I like it since it's a simple. It's a shorter cycle. It's just those 2 months in the winter. Um, but that's if you figure out all the aspects of that from the marketing to the fulfillment, then that's something you can copy and paste into something like events or to any other area. That's cool,
Yeah,
man. That's so where are you at now? Like it seems like this is what you're gearing up to do this. Is this kind of going to be like the main focus, or is this do you see as a step to the same vision of events, or have things kind of shifted as this Christmas light business come? Yeah, how have things shifted as Christmas lights come into the
Yeah,
fold?
that's a good question. So we basically did our last day of takedown 4 or 5 days ago on Thursday, 4 days ago. So we're pretty much wrapped up with Christmas lights. So that was the point of Christmas lights when I got into it. Was I was like, okay, I just need, like, I basically had no short-term savings anymore. And so I wanted money. And then, of course, I accidentally cut myself in that time. I cut my toe. And so I needed surgery, which is about $3,000 for like everything, which I didn't think was terrible, but that's not cheap also. Um, so I wanted money, and I was like trying to figure out what to do next. Cause like with events, like ultimately I realized that I was hosting events because I wanted to host events, and that was the problem I was solving, was because I wanted to do it, not really because there's like a need in the market, and not because I was like helping people grow their business or like anything like that. Like it was basically just because I wanted to. And I was like, what's the coolest stuff we can do? Who's the most interesting person I can get in touch with? Is like kind of the lens I was looking at it. So ultimately that's like why it was hard, and there wasn't like I wasn't making money doing it. So I'm still really excited about the idea of helping people create lasting memories. That's like the general problem I want to be helping solve. I don't think hosting events for money is the best way to do that. Like that's not the business that I should build, because it's just like I'm either going to do things I don't want to do, or I'm just not going to make money. And so those are your two options I found with events. So I'm just gonna not make money. I'm still gonna host events casually, like spend a lot less time doing it, but still do numerous a year and stuff like that. I just helped host one last Friday actually, so it's like 3 or 4 days ago. I helped a friend host one, and there's definitely some. I'm planning another one that I'll host in like a month or two. But anyway, so that's just more. I'm gonna host events for just the love of hosting events, because ultimately that's why I realized why I wanted to do it, and I want to start an e-commerce store, and it's going to be the general thing is like experience in a box. So it's basically a product that you buy, and it's like a bunch of fun activities to do to help you create lasting memories with either friends or family or whoever. I haven't settled on a target market yet. And the main company, like the biggest player in this space, is called the Adventure Challenge. And they do, it's basically like a booklet you buy, and then you like scratch off something, and it like tells you of like something you could go do. And it's like a certain book could be date night. Another book could be like family fun activities for like families of 3 to 7 size or something like that, or like adventures to do outside your city. So like the Adventure Challenge is like a bunch of things like that. Some other competitors do like, yeah, exploring in a nearby city, like national parks and these other state parks and a bunch of fun things like that. And then some of them do like an escape room or like a scavenger hunt throughout a city. So like, there's a bunch of companies that are kind of already doing this. So that seems like something I'd be passionate about, and it would be pretty fun to do that. And it's like more or less I have a handful of the skill sets needed to go do that already, including internet marketing. But I haven't picked a target audience, and I really want to be diligent about like I'm actually solving a problem, not just building a product because I want to build the product, which is kind of the mistake I had with events. But then Christmas lights, I realized I was like, I've never owned Christmas lights. Like I live in a van. Like I don't, like I wouldn't say I hate them, but like I don't personally care about them. But then when you're helping people and it's like brightening up their holidays and it's really in demand, like people were like, it was like we couldn't keep up with the demand. And I was like a really awesome feeling. Like I just underestimated how passionate I was about winning. And then like ultimately, like you are doing good with Christmas lights. Like you're not like hurting people or the world or anything like that. Um, so yeah, with this next thing, I'm just like, I really want to make sure I'm actually solving a problem that's like helping people and is in demand. And that's kind of where I'm stuck. Like I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, it'd be cool to have like a van scavenger hunt around the U.S. or something like that.
Okay.
Since
Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all.
yeah, since I don't know, like I when I had the bus, it was more like a mobile home. I didn't really travel in it since it was a house. It was not optimized
Yeah,
for the road. But yeah, and I've a station wagon now that I can kind of put a little van set up in. I've got a sleeping pad and little
dude,
kitchen that
nice.
fits in there. So I'll do mini adventures, but
Oh,
it's hard to know where to begin. Like so I don't know, something like that would be interesting.
that is a good idea.
Um, yeah,
I had to
that
write that
that's
down.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you about, you've uh used the term problem solving in a couple ways in this conversation. Like you realized in retrospect that you weren't solving a problem, like you were, the problem you were solving in the event was that you like to host events. Um
Correct.
and then was there a time recently maybe that like the your attention has shifted more towards what is the problem I'm solving? What is the problem that I could be solving? Is that it seems like in this conversation that's a frame that you're thinking from a lot. Is that something that came about recently, or is that something that you've always kind of been oriented by?
That's a good question. I mean, at first, especially in like living in a van and traveling, like the only problem I wanted to solve was how do I travel every single day? Like that's not like
Mhm.
someone else's problem and stuff. But I've found like with helping people, specifically solving other people's problems, is like it's actually pretty fulfilling. Because like ultimately you are helping people. But yeah, I'd say because like events, I was just like, I'm just gonna host events. I'm gonna figure out how to make money and let's do it. It was like that was about it. Like it wasn't like I didn't have a target audience. I mean, I had entrepreneurs in Salt Lake City was my target
It
audience,
seems
which is
like
pretty broad.
when you're setting out with that goal as you're describing it there, like you're not thinking what problem am I going to solve? I'm going to host events. But then it seems like
Correct.
recently, or at least at the time of this conversation now, looking back, you're like, what problem was I solving then? Oh, that wasn't a big enough problem, or there wasn't a big enough market for that problem for me to have been successful the same way there was with this Christmas lights thing. Is this Christmas lights kind of what's got you shifted your attention to like what problem am I solving? Where's the market for that problem? Or
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
absolutely. Yeah, because having something that's in demand is like everything else is just like pretty basic problem solving. You still got to show up full time and stuff like that and figure it
Yeah,
out. But when you're like, man, I don't even know who I'm helping or how I'm helping them, like you're just like, man, you're really spinning wheels. It's really hard to make decisions.
yeah.
Um,
That's I'm asking these questions for myself since I've same kind of thing as you. I've tried various things. I've been a trainer the last few years primarily, and I've done freelance work. But I've been trying to think how to get my business online, and yeah. So it's same kind of thing I'm going through, and as you're bringing up this whole what problem am I solving frame, that's resonating with me. I'm like, oh, it's honestly, I think that's part of what I'm missing. I'm sure there's other blind spots as well, but I think you're highlighting one there for me. So that's interesting.
yeah,
That's cool, man. That's it's interesting how you're you're going with the flow, but everything's kind of building off itself. You use the copywriting, uh, parlay that into the digital marketing and getting out there, probably that into learning from the event guy. I wanted to ask too about the guy who wrote that book, the 2 hour, was it 2 hour
yeah,
cocktail? How
party.
yeah, the 2 hour cocktail party. How did you find that book? And then like Tim Ferriss, that's the other book you mentioned, the 4 hour work week. I honestly I wish that we connected on that book since I read that book same time, about a year before college was out, and that set me on that was one of the that's set my course in a lot of ways. But
Totally.
yeah, so how'd you find that? So Tim Ferriss, he's kind of become the guru in that space, I would say, and so he's way up there. Is this where does was it Nick? Was that the guy's name?
Nick Gray.
Nick Gray. Where does Nick Gray kind of fit? Is he a guru, or is he more like a niche of the world that you were focused on? Or and then like so I guess yeah. What was the context of him in that world, and then what was your process of reaching out and connecting, and then eventually getting to work with him?
Yeah. So first I had heard about him. One of my favorite podcasts is called My First Million. It's by Sam Parr and Sean Puri. Two like successful entrepreneurs. They both lived in the Bay for a while. I think Sam's he's in New York, but anyway, he's all over. And so that's actually how I got into events because Sam, one of his first companies that really took off was events. So I was kind of copying his model in like the first handful of events he was doing. And then once I had a little bit of momentum, I kind of put my own twist on it. And so on that podcast, they talk about Nick Gray a lot because they're like all good friends with each other. And Nick's known as like one of the most interesting and unique human beings, and he definitely is. I can say after hanging out with him, because he had most of his money came well, a large chunk of his money came from a company called Museum Hack that he started, which is literally like really fun, entertaining uh, tours throughout like the Metropolitan in New York or like some of the big museums in LA and Seattle and some other places. And so he really got good at hosting events, like smaller events, and like connecting with people and stuff. And so ultimately, he wrote a book kind of about his process of what he would do, not for like the museum itself, but for like other events that he was hosting. Because it's like the perfect mix of like 2 hours is really, that's not that big of a time commitment. Like you're not committing half a day or something to meet people that you don't know. Like 2 hours is easy to like bite off and chew for people to sign up for. And it's also like really easy to host a cocktail party because like it's just drinks and snacks. Like you're not prepping dinner and all this stuff. You can, excuse me, you can do them just about anywhere, like on hotel lobbies or libraries or at the public park or in a small apartment building. Um, and so yeah, so the book's kind of centered around basically like how to make friends and properly network as an adult would be like the quick answer of like how to do that. And he's a master at that. And then I was trying to, because I was hosting like smaller events just to get started. And then that's where I read his book, where I was like, oh man, like this guy apparently is the best at doing this. And then I read his book and I was like, this guy is infinitely better than me. So I should keep taking advice from him. And then, dude, he just in the book, he's like, "Oh yeah, and like when you're gonna host your first party, like email me. My team will hold you accountable. We'll give you like action steps. You know, like 2 weeks before your event, the week before your event, the day before your event, where it's like relevant information right when you need it. So it's kind of like holding your hand to host these events. And so I was doing that for like one or two of mine, and then he has his phone number just in his like email signature. So I just picked up the phone and called him and asked him about a couple of my events and told him like my long term vision of having a conference and all this stuff with events. And he's like, "Oh, okay, this is how I do it if I was you." And he was like literally just like giving me consistent advice on how to do it. And then after a few times on the phone with him, I saw on Twitter he had posted he's looking for a PR person, basically for like backlink building. I didn't understand that at the time, but he's looking for a PR person, which is kind of just like outreach and such. And I was like, oh, I've done so much outreach with copywriting and email marketing and stuff. Like, I'm sure I'd be good enough at this, and then I can also help him host events. And so I like called him. Probably the third time I called him, I was like, oh, I saw on Twitter you were posting about this. Like, I'd be the perfect person for the job. Here's why. And he's like, "Oh yeah, totally." And then like when he started explaining what he wanted, I was like, "Oh, this is backlink building, which is like a very common SEO tactic, where you're just trying to get other sites to link to your site." And then Google's like, "This site's powerful." Like the more sites that link to your site, the more powerful Google thinks you are. That's like a really dumbed down version, but
Yeah.
that's a quick explanation. And so I was like, this is literally just SEO. Like I know, I'm not an expert, but like I'm pretty good at this. Been doing it for a while. And then I was just like, because I was on, or I was helping the team with like internet marketing stuff, I was able to like, oh, these are the blog posts we should be doing. This is the email marketing we should be doing. And like, kind of was able to like suggest things. And then also he'd be like, oh, I'm hosting this event. And then he just post on it on Twitter and like get a ton of signups already. Then I'd help with like all the logistics of like where and like communicating with all the people and planning it. And then like in person, like helping run it in person too. So that's kind of how like our relationship um, has grown.
It's super cool. Um, yeah, that was just something that when you brought it up, I was curious how that. It's hard to. Uh, yeah, I don't know. It's good to. This podcast has been a way that I've reached out to people and I've had some conversations with people that I wouldn't have thought would have any business talking with me. Just people that I followed in my little niches. So it's pretty cool to hear just how you can go about networking that. The last thing I really wanted to ask about too is, and I asked this about a lot of my guests who are athletes, is what's your training routine like?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess especially now, let's focus for the sake of this question on what are you going to do between now and July when you've got your 50K. You're coming off toe. You're going to be lifting heavy weights right before doing this 50K. So I
Yeah,
mean that
literally the
this is the
morning
beginning.
of.
You'll probably have to figure it out as you go. What kind of volume you can take, but how do you plan on organizing this training cycle?
Yeah. So, I mean, at first, because I literally got cleared just a couple days ago. So I was doing like super light deadlifts, well, probably like 40% of 1 rep max. It's not like super light, but like still working up. and I'll do like usually 5 reps right now. And so I'm kind of going to stick at just like a 5 by 5 for a little bit for deadlift and back squat, because that will just like kind of get my body ready, and like kind of ease back into things. And then probably in like 1 to 3 weeks here, I think I'll start doing cleans, because cleans are like more aggressive on my toes. You're like exploding upward. Um, and then so I've been doing like jump ropes and some things like that. And then for running, I actually ran about a mile a day, and that was the first time I've ran. So I just wanted to like see, like basically the plan for the next, I guess, month really is just to kind of like keep doing those things, but like ease into them and like listen to my body and make sure I'm doing like my toe PT. 'Cause my toe doesn't like to bend downward all the way, so I'm like holding it and like stretching it and like doing a bunch of random PT things. So I'm not gonna take like running and lifting super seriously for the next month. More of like just do it consistently, like at least a couple times a week. Probably lifting like 5 days a week and then running like 3 or 4 days a week, but like really short, just to like make sure that my body's good, not to overload it or anything like that. Because that's like endurance and like longevity of my tendons in the toe is like the most important thing. And then, but once I'm cleared, yeah, basically what I trained last year for the 50K that worked really well for me is just one really big run a week.
That's exactly what
Because
I did
that's
when I did mine.
dude,
Same exact thing.
because yeah, and like there's so many other advice out there of like run, like have a run
Yeah,
X amount per week and then taper down and like all this stuff. And I'm just like, man, it's so simple just to go on one big run a week. And
yeah.
every
That's
time you
I
kind of
try
just
to
keep
get a
going
little
more and
work
more.
in, but yeah, yeah, exact same. That's yeah. The one, and then that one week I overloaded that. I tried to go like I started at the first time I did it. I ran like 8 miles and I was cooked. And then
Nice. Oh
that was
yeah.
I guess that was like day one, like max out. And so then I forget how many weeks it was, but I tried to like on average go up 2 miles a week um
Yeah.
till the end.
Nice,
But
dude.
yeah, that was how I did mine.
Yeah. So
That's a
kind of
good way to balance it with
simplicity is
lifting.
key. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing is like, I don't know how much I could have lifted when I ran this 50K last year. It was probably a decent bit, like close to these goals, but definitely not the goal of like the 405 and 315 and all that. But so like being like you have to run enough to run a 50K, but you have to not run too much where you can't lift. And so that's like a unique balance where I've never actually like played that before. Um,
Yeah, I
so
was
I'm gonna
doing
be
that. I was lifting like Monday through Thursday, and then I would run on usually Saturday, sometimes Sunday. I would do my big run, but that
nice.
worked pretty well for me. That the Friday rest day before the big run that helped. And then my heaviest day would usually be on like the Tuesday or Wednesday, so
Yep.
it would have been a few days rest. What I wish I
Nice.
did that I didn't do is like stuff that was longer than the race. I didn't like I'd worked up
Um,
like close like it was I think I went to like that 29 miles, I was increasing 2 miles a week, and so like the idea was like by the end like the last 2 mile increment will be the race. But I wish that I'd done like a 50-mile 2 day backpacking trip or something like that, just to so my
totally.
yeah, that was the one thing looking back. I wish I had done something like that. But yeah, I thought lifting, and the good thing about lifting too is I felt my recovery was really good. Like since
Yeah.
I'd been in a lifting phase, and then once I started running, like my recovery was a lot better than when I've run in the past without lifting consistently. That's a cool
Totally.
goal, man. That's really fun.
I'm excited, man. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be grindy, but it's gonna be fun. Um, and I think one thing to mention too is like I'm actually more focused on like not getting hurt and like longevity and health span than I am on like getting the absolute best time. Like
Mhm.
last year, it took me 11 hours. I think the fastest person was like 4.5 hours. Tons of people were in like the 6 to 8 hour range. So I was probably like the back quarter of the people who actually finished. I was in like the last 30% of them. And for me, that's like, hey, that's totally fine. Like, I just want
Yeah.
it to finish and not get
Mhm.
hurt. Like, I care more about that than trying to, win or anything like that. And so I do, and I'm having that exact same approach again for this year. But of course, you're adding weightlifting into it. So I'm doing a lot of like knees over toes and yoga and mobility and like hip opening. Like a lot of my time, probably like 40% of my physical activity time is like literally just like doing it feels like kind of chill. Like you're not your heart rate's not that up, it's not heavy. But like the knees over toes guy stuff, very, very crucial to be doing a lot of that, especially for a run that large. And then yoga is always a good time.
Yeah, I did a ton of knees over toes. I forgot. See, it's
Oh,
my little
nice, dude.
I have my knees over toes set up right there. Um, yeah, man, it's that guy's awesome. There's foundation training. I don't know if you've heard of that guy, Eric Goodman. He's in the
Hmm.
Denver area. He
Nice.
focuses more on lower back, which but I did a lot of his stuff too when I was training, and I felt like it just sort of like helped maintain alignment, which was something I would like tap into. When I got fatigued, I'll just like would start like shelling up, kind of. I'm exaggerating it here, but like I just sort of felt like that,
I,
like
oh yeah,
collapsing sensation. But that foundation training is just like good, good base for like that maintained alignment. I felt like that would just help me keep good breathing going. Um,
totally.
but cool, man. I don't want to take up too much of your time. But this was really cool,
I got
dude.
some. Yeah, absolutely. I still got a little bit of time, dude. So what have you been up to? What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been
What's one of the favorite things you've done in the last few years? Let's start there.
favorite things I've done. I've done a lot. I really like this podcast. I'd say there's
Nice.
podcasts I'm passionate about. I've got into writing creatively, and then training. So I'm into martial arts, and that I always played sports, and I kind of switched my focus to martial arts over the last few years. So I'd say I run and lift for just most kind of like you said, health span focused, longevity focused. But in the context of martial arts, jujitsu is the main one I'm into right now. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to think. I have a brand that I'm working with called Fight and Flight Conditioning. Um,
Nice.
I'm
It's a good
trying to
name.
build that out. Yeah, that's kind of like my philosophy is like training for those contexts, fight and flight. And then my plan is to alternate between running type competitions and martial arts type competitions. Um, and
Nice.
yeah, so it's doing both those things. I want to have fitness devices. So ultimately, I would like to be like the whole health fitness guy, where it's
Totally.
training your body, but then also, um, yeah, have nutrition and dietetics. I'm interested in water filtration. I've been talking with some of the companies
Yeah.
out here about like the home water filtration systems, um, and then tiny houses. Like my ultimate
Dude.
goal is to have like little tiny house communities where artists, athletes, and entrepreneurs come to collaborate and do like I did this program when I was in high school called the Mountain School. It was 4 months in
Hmm.
Vermont, um, for one semester of your junior year. Um, and it was just I love that amount of time. I felt like in 4 months it was like a long enough time that I was able to forge like lasting connections. I'm really good. I just stayed lived with one of my friends in New York from the mountain school this summer. I did a long road trip when I just moved from Washington. I saw some of my mountain school friends along the way, and this was just one 4 month period, like 12 years ago. So I kind of
Nice.
want to create like a space where people can kind of have similar experiences in the context of like art, athletics, and entrepreneurship. Um,
Dude,
so that's
that
what I'm
sounds
building towards.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm I'm coming at it from a lot of different angles, so I'm not really sure. That's it's kind of like what you've done. I've followed this general vision, but like I end up I was with like a consulting company for a while, and then I was doing
Hmm.
sales for a different company that I met through the consulting company for a while, and then I became a trainer, and I was doing this stuff in the background, freelance, and I don't know. I've kind of just been twisted and turned along the way, but that's the goal I've been working towards.
That's sick,
So
man.
yeah, I'm fixing to go back to school to learn 3D modeling and GIS to
Yep.
for this stuff. You know the Earth ships and Taos? Have you seen those things?
Only on YouTube. I've never seen them in person, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested by those. I went and saw them on my last road trip. Um,
Nice.
if you're ever out in New Mexico, I'd highly recommend checking them out. They're pretty cool, and
I
they're
actually haven't been out there. I was kind of thinking about going there this year to go skiing.
yeah, it's New Mexico's sweet. I just went skiing in Santa Fe for my sister just got married this a couple days ago on Saturday, and
Congrats.
her fiance at the time, now husband, had his bachelor weekend in Santa Fe, so we did a ski trip like back in December.
Nice.
Awesome, man. I love it's yeah, really, New Mexico, I think, is slept on in the country. It's New Mexico is a lot of
Yeah,
fun. Um, but yeah, I bet you would like those Earthships. So I kind of want to come up with Earthship type designs and then build these communities out of them with where you know motivated individuals are coming together to collaborate and yeah. So that's what I'm interested
that
in right
sounds
now.
awesome. Would it be like a community of like that people, most of the people live there full time, or would it be something like a retreat where like people could come for a week or 4 months or whatever,
I
or
like that
TBD?
time frame, like that 2 to 6 months. I feel like that's about how long it takes to like. It usually takes a month or two, so I feel like fully comfortable in a place. I've done some longer traveling, and that's just kind of where I have like my routines, you know. Um,
Hmm.
so I like, but then so that mountain school I went to, that's kind of why I brought it up. That I like that time. That was 4 months. I felt like I really, or maybe it was 5 months, but I really got to know everyone well. But at the same time, it was short enough where like we were all there. We were there to like we're taking advantage of our time there. We knew that there was an end. Everyone there, it was kind of the unwritten, unsaid thing, unspoken. We knew it was going to end. We knew that our time there was short. We wanted to all take advantage. And so we were all just like, felt like squeezing the most out of each day. And that was part of what made that experience so special. And all the teachers, the faculty,
Yeah,
the systems that they built up over time all promoted that same sort of vision. And so that a lot goes into it. It's not just the timing, but ideally,
nice.
in a perfect world, it would be people come for something like that 4 or 6 months. And they apply, and I accept people, or the admissions team accepts people, and then I create content, and um, it kind of be like an incubator, like the business model be more about like kind of like, Y Combinator and all
Hmm.
those. Yeah, like something. It'd be more like people would earn the right to be there, and then they would have the space to work with, but I would monetize it in some other way, probably content, maybe through back end um, investments or something like that. But yeah, that's the vision. It's like um, putting that together. I like Central America, but the idea would be to pick.
Yep.
Have you done Central America?
I've been to Costa Rica.
I love Costa Rica. I like Guatemala a lot. I think Costa Rica is the coolest spot. Guatemala's a little cheaper. But yeah, Central America is awesome, and I like how close it is to the U.S. But it's still super different. But at the same time, it's like it's probably as fast for me to fly to Costa Rica from Nashville as it is to go fly to the West Coast right now.
Totally.
That's cool. So I don't know. That's hopefully in the next couple of years. I kind of have picked a spot, and I'm starting to build out one of these concepts somewhere in Central America. Um,
Hmm.
but
Dude,
yeah,
I love that. I kept thinking, I didn't think I would like make money off of it, or if I did, I would kind of just ruin the idea. But I wanted to start a hacker house, which is basically just a house full of like founders. And so
yeah,
just do that in Salt Lake, like just get anywhere from like 3 to 5 roommates, kind of like a bigger house. It's like a little bit nicer, and like have 1 or 2 rooms with like an office or like a living room with an office or something like that. And where it's like founders are just like building, probably between the age of like 20 and 35, roughly,
mhm,
for people who live there, and they're just building on what they want to build.
yeah,
Run the company they want to run, whatever that is. So I kept thinking about that, but then I was like, yeah, I'd rather just live in my van. So I'm trying to convince one of my friends to do it because him and his brother are a founder of a pest control company. We have a ton of other like entrepreneur buddies. And so when they buy their next like investment property, they usually live in it for like a year or two for like tax reasons and stuff. And I was like, dude, with the next property, like you should just only have founders and as your roommates. And like that would be the only change. Like you only need like 1 to 3 roommates if there's two of you. And then I'd show up there all the time and stuff. So it didn't make sense for me to do it, but like I love that idea.
yeah. There's something about those environments where everyone's has like shared ambition, or it's just that there's a multiplying effect where you see someone else making progress towards their goals. It inspires you to make progress to yours, and then that just
Yeah.
perpetuates.
Yeah. I've actually met a couple people like in San Fran. They do it at like a crazy scale. I've only been to San Fran a couple times, but one time I was there, I met a girl who's in the hacker house. And it was kind of like a incubator. Whereas like
Mhm.
they did like literally everything from like your laundry and cooking you food and
Well,
everything, but they would give you it was like a good terms too. I think they'd give you $100,000 for like 3% of your company to come live there. And I forget what the stints were, but it was like 6 or 12 months is what you'd go live there for. Like rent, like literally everything for free is just included, and you get 100 grand to go build your company.
do you know what that
So
was
it's kind
called?
of like, dude, I'm gonna find it though. I remember the
Yeah.
person's name who I talked to that was there. Um, yeah, they just call it like a hacker house, and it was basically like a venture capitalist firm would like
Yeah.
start it because it's like that was the model. It's like you're a venture capitalist, but you're also providing all these other services. So like that's why it was like competitive terms. But I think at the time YC had better terms, like in other words, more money for less equity. It's like that was kind of like their competitive edge. But then again, like if you're in the house the whole time, um, that's like a pretty big advantage. Like that would be so sick, dude. Like it's
Yeah.
actually like a retreat, like what you're talking about, where it's like if I could just show up and still work, 40 hours a week, but then there's like, dude, there's still so much time to go like eat lunch, food with people, go on adventures on the weekend, and go do stuff. Where it was kind of like a working retreat. I don't know what you'd call it, but like a working retreat, like or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I could be pretty into that, especially if you like had it like specific. You'd be like, okay, these are like info product companies, like people who are selling info products. This is their 2 months, and then the next two
Oh
months is
yeah.
like e-commerce, and then the next 2 months is like
That would be
fitness
cool.
trainers or whatever, like fitness, like health and fitness related things, or you know what I mean? Because like almost like probably like 80% of the benefit is the other as an attendee is the other attendees. That's kind of what I've
Hmm.
learned from events. It's like that's like why you go. Like a lot of the times the speaker was like literally just to get people in the door, and like yeah, you get to talk to him, and sure he's built some crazy ridiculous company, but like most of your time you're just talking to the other attendees who are also interested in that, and that's where like the connections and the benefit was. And then I'm just spitballing here, but
Yeah.
then
No. Keep
especially
going.
if you had like an e-commerce week or something like that, you could. I actually found it like one of the easier things. Like selling tickets for events was very hard, but convincing some big name person who's either raised hundreds of millions of dollars or is currently doing hundreds of millions of dollars in sales a year on their company that they bootstrap was like not super hard. Like I wouldn't go as far as to call it easy, but it was like pretty straightforward of just like cold emailing people and like consistently following up. And with that is like you could have a bit okay, well, like today we're gonna have, I don't know, some ecom legends like train you on fulfillment. And then we have someone else train you the next week, someone else is training you on inventory management, and then someone else is training you on social media. And so it's like you wouldn't have to teach people about e-commerce. You would just bring
Yeah.
e-commerce legends into the room and have them teach. And then it's like the benefit if like especially when you're targeted on like just e-com or something, then it would be like all the benefit comes from the people you meet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something I've thought about. It's since I my vision is like so broad that it's unrealistically I'm not going to be the best athlete in the room if this is successful. I'm not going to be the best entrepreneur. I'm not going to be the best artist. But it's hopefully I'm well versed in those areas enough to see it. See when there's someone awesome at it to like see it and recognize it, and then
Mm-hmm.
bring those people in, and then yeah, like you're saying, then those are the people who run the groups. I like your idea of splitting it up with focuses. Um,
Dude, you
that's
don't even
cool.
have to build these things to get started. You could go somewhere where it's like fun and pretty cheap, like
Yeah,
Guatemala or Central or South America, where it's like the travel.
just do an
There's
event.
definitely some travel, but it's not like crazy hard for
Yeah,
people to hop on a plane and just do it for like a 2 week period or a week period or something
yeah,
like that. And then like try and get like 8 founders and then three coaches or three, three
yeah.
people to look up to teach us. Uh, that could be something.
That's a honestly, you're shifting my paradigm of this from like from a real estate type deal to an event event kind of thing. I appreciate that. It's this is
Yeah.
even if it was a 4 month thing, that's just a 4 month event, where it's
Yeah.
like an event. Um, Design it like an event. That's a cool way to.
Yeah. Like a work retreat.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other main things you're focused on, or is this like the main focus?
This is I've jumped around a lot. Like there was a while where I was like into music, and I did that and that was like something I was focused on. I would say that kind of falls under the art umbrella of this bigger goal, but this bigger goal that's been consistent since I was young. It's just kind of grown over time. Um, yeah, I went to Guatemala when I was my mom let me travel to Guatemala alone when I was in high school, which was really cool. I went a few times, and that was when I started thinking like I want to do. Met expats. That was when I learned like what expats were, and I ended up staying at some places that expats ran, and I still don't even want to be like a full expat, but I was just like I don't know that was
I hear you.
where this vision all began. As far as what else I got going on, yeah, I did that. Yeah, that's the main things. Sports, I'm playing flag football and jujitsu and stuff like that,
Nice.
and then this is the goal I'm trying to chip away at from different angles.
On, dude. Dude, you should do it like this summer or even better this spring. Like just try and get oh, man, because like if that's your main thing, like you should do it soon, like as soon as
Yeah,
possible. Because I bet you could just like kind of eyeball out some locations. Like there's probably just like one Airbnb that's reasonably priced in like Central South America and that has like 5 or 8
yeah,
rooms, and you don't even buy it yet. You just like try and reserve the dates without spending much money, and then you could turn around and get like a couple ecom legends or I don't know what you want to call them, but like people who could teach, get them on board, and then try and turn around and sell like 8 founders or whatever, 8 people in that
yeah,
space to come. I feel like that'd be like quite bootstrappable.
yeah. Dude, I'm appreciating uh this perspective. It's a lot leaner than the mindset I've been coming from.
Totally.
Do you remember the lean startup? Did you?
Lean startup. Was that what we
That
talked
was
about in Rick Winfield's class?
yeah. I can't.
Or no, Art of the Start. I think it was Art of the
Part of
Start
the
was what he
start.
talked about.
Rick Win. I can't remember if it was in Rick Winfield's class or if he just recommended it to me. There's a book called The Lean Startup, which it's it kind of goes along with the 4 hour work week of like um and honestly that maybe that's part of your perspective is like you've when it comes to your values, how you see things, you've got that lean
Oh
perspective.
yeah.
Who's the guy who wrote it? Startup. I'll send you the link to that book since that was a really cool book and it was just all about like how to test your ideas as
Yeah.
inexpensively in the least possible amount of time and then build on it was just gather data, quality data inexpensively from time and money perspective and then build using that data. That's the general concept. But
Yeah.
it's Eric Ries. That's the pretty sure that's the
Eric
author.
Reese. Lean
Yeah, I'll
startup.
send you a link.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Um
What are you most excited for in the next month?
um I've been getting into jujitsu. I really like this
Yeah.
coach here. I've bounced around the jujitsu gyms. I started with Muay Thai and then I dabbled with MMA and then like the first time I did sparring in MMA, I got taken down and just twisted up. And
Ooh.
I was like, I never really got jujitsu. I watched UFC and stuff. I didn't really understand what it felt like until I felt it. Then I was like, oh, like that's what's happening. Since then I've
Yeah.
been on the journey of trying to learn jujitsu, but I don't know. I've been to a lot of jiu-jitsu specific gyms, and this gym I'm at right now is MMA gym that has jiu-jitsu. So I'm just training jiu-jitsu there, but just the combination of the coach and the people who train there. There's like sambo guys from Uzbekistan and freestyle wrestlers from Kazakhstan. It's just like a lot of ideas coming through, and it's all kind of open ended the classes, which
Come on, dude.
goes well for me. So yeah, that's probably the thing I'm most excited about. I'm still kind of getting set here. Um, so looking for jobs. I'm doing freelance work, but yeah, I'm still. I just got some bags over the weekend, so I'm still kind of unpacking and figuring out how I'm going to set everything up here.
Nice.
But as far as what I'm most excited about, the jujitsu has been the most
On,
exciting
dude.
part of being in this place, and then it's cool to starting in a fresh place with the lady, and um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So It's been fun. How about you? What do you got going on in the near future?
Dude, figuring out what company I'm starting by far. Like it's just I feel like I'm spinning my wheels because I am. But it's kind of like a brutal place to be in. Of like I really want to build something, but I just don't know what. So I'm kind of
Yeah,
just like cruising around like Reddit and Google and some other places, trying to like study communities and figure out which one I actually care about. Um, and then skiing. I'm really excited about skiing. I started skiing again on like Friday.
nice.
Looks like I just got a bloody nose too, actually, but
I don't
that's
know.
all right. Just a little one. Yeah, because I got cleared on Thursday to go do like everything, like running and skiing and weightlifting and all that. So I went skiing on Friday because the weather was good. I'll go skiing again tomorrow. That'll be a ton of fun. But I mean, skiing's always been there and it always will be there. First is like figuring out this next company is kind of like the more new and exciting thing.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a lot of figuring out to do. So, but it's fun. Like I feel like just hearing your story here throughout this conversation, like there's a lot of uncertainty. You don't know
Hmm.
which path you're going to go down, but
Yeah.
it's fun to embrace it and kind of find your spots.
Oh, for real. For
What
real. I'll come back one sec.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it's like the opportunity. He's like, well, what's out there? That's the fun place to be.
yeah.
Um, Sick, dude. Is there anything I can help you with?
Um,
This is probably some
not.
great video content right here.
Who knows? Maybe it's clickbait. Um, as far as help, I not right this second, and I always ask the same thing. I have people on, but yeah, but always keep me posted if you need anything. Um, this podcast is a cool networking device where I've had all different kinds of people on, and now I'm tapped in with all these people. So I'm hoping to continue to grow this network. But feel free if you see someone else I've had on that you want to connect with, you can always bridge those. Or if you come across someone and you're like, oh, you've got a similar vibes, Jake, let me know. And I'm always interested in doing new guests. I've got
Totally.
a barefoot guy coming on soon. Might be something to check out. I don't know if you've done much of the barefoot training, but I had a
I
toe
love
injury.
barefoot shoes.
Yeah, I wear Vivo barefoots for like every day. I've got
Oh yeah.
some on right now. You can see they've got
Yep.
holes in them, but
Nice.
yeah, um, yeah. This guy's called the Barefoot Sprinter, but yeah, I love. I wear them in the gym. I wear them for running. I try to sometimes run barefoot, on grass and stuff like that. But yeah, I had a toe injury where it still isn't quite right. I heard it, and then like the night I heard it, I tried to go run, and I did, and I just ran until it went numb, and I kept going. Which is I used to do that stuff more often. Now I'm trying to get smarter about injury prevention. But yeah, I think there was some permanent damage from that run. Probably it never quite healed right. Um,
Dang.
so the barefoot training is definitely helps kind of get some of that strength back.
So like literally not barefoot shoes, like literally zero shoes.
Yeah, yeah. That
Like
barefoot
not wearing
shoes, like,
shoes.
and it was sweet. Since I've been a trainer, I would work out at this gym where I would have the whole space to myself, so I could do that kind of stuff. A lot of gyms don't allow you to go barefoot, or it's just awkward to, have the raw
Totally.
dogs out. But um, yeah, the barefoot. I wear Vivo barefoots all the time, and then sometimes I try to incorporate like barefoot stuff.
Nice.
And it makes sense. You get just more sensory feedback, which is going to lead
Oh
to
yeah.
like more neural connections being formed, which is going to help speed up the recovery process. I'm a big believer in visualization for injury recovery.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but I think visualizate like, and there's research. They have the same research with piano, where there's like one group of people that does nothing. They're the control group. One group of people that lifts weights. They have the same with piano. One group person that practices piano like with their hands, and then a third group
Yeah.
that just visualizes either lifting the weights or playing the piano. And in both of those two studies, I think it was about 80% of the strength or 80% of the skill on the piano was gained by the visualization group over the control group in
Yeah.
that, which is crazy. So there was a while where was doing like visualization training with athletes. I was trying to come up with systems for that, based on memory training systems. I've gone down all these rabbit holes, but um, yeah, I'm a big believer that visualization is super productive for the same reasons that barefoot shoe training is productive, and that's because you're getting more like you're stimulating the neurological pathways, or just the neural pathways.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
More feeling.
yeah, exactly.
Nice.
And you can
That's
feel it
good to
without
know.
using it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I love barefoot shoes. I cut my last pair of barefoot shoes because I was wearing them when I cut myself.
Yeah,
I was gonna buy a new pair pretty soon here, but I gotta wait a little bit because like all the cushioning and like I'm wearing like trail running shoes for like just about everything because I can't bend my toe downward in those shoes, so I need to like stick to that. But pretty soon here, I'm gonna go back to like barefoot shoes.
yeah, yeah. That's it's. I had orthotics for years when I was a kid, and they would just my feet would get worse. They'd give me a thicker orthotic, and that was just the pattern. Like, get worse, thicker
Yeah,
orthotic, and eventually I was just like, this is just. I'm gonna do the exact opposite. I'm gonna get no support, and I just eased into it. But yeah, I haven't gone back. Barefoot shoes pretty crucial.
they are the
But yeah,
best.
when I hurt my foot, I wore just trail running shoes for a while until I could do the barefoot shoes again.
Nice,
Um,
nice,
awesome,
cool,
man.
man.
Well, this was
Anything
really
else we
cool.
should talk about?
I think that's it for now. It's we can always do another one of these if and when the time comes. If there's something you want to come on and talk about, might reach out if I see you doing cool things. But
Totally.
yeah, this was really cool. I'm glad we got to reconnect, and we've
Yeah,
got a lot of adjacent interests, so it's cool to dive in.
totally.
And yeah, it's your approach is cool. I really appreciate your perspective. You turned this conversation on me at the end more than most people do, which I really appreciate, since
Of
that gave me the
course.
opportunity to kind of look at some of the things I'm doing through your lenses, which yeah, I'll definitely have my takeaways there. Um, yeah, I really like your idea to bootstrap this long
Yeah.
term tiny house vision
Oh
and
yeah.
get something, find a leaner version I can do in the meantime. That's something I'll try to figure out how I can put that into action. But I appreciate that a
Dude,
lot,
you
man.
got it.
Yeah, sweet. Well, thanks, Shaggy. Um,
Of course, buddy. Let me know if you're ever in Utah or traveling outside of Tennessee. I'm usually in
yeah,
Utah or like kind of the states right around Utah. So I'd love to link up sometime.
yeah, for sure. Same if you're ever in Nashville. Yeah, this is we got a guest bed here. Um,
Nice.
outside of it, but yeah, I know you probably end up all over the place. So if and when, it'd be sweet to link up on our paths. Man.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
thanks for now,
Dude,
Shaggy. This
real
was
quick,
awesome. Yeah.
I'm going to take a screenshot of us and I'm going to send it to David because I haven't talked to him in years. So I just want to say what up. So let's go like this or something. Nice. Got it. Cool. I'll text him and say what up
Sweet.
to him because I haven't reached out to him in years. So
Yeah,
that'll be
I
fun.
love David is awesome. We stayed in touch, and yeah, David's been a great friend for a long time. So
Love to hear that,
glad
man.
glad that he initiated this conversation, one of our recent conversations. But
Oh,
sweet,
yeah, dude.
man. Appreciate your time here. I'll send you everything when it's posted, and um yeah, this
Yeah,
was
let me
awesome.
know.
Yeah.
Sounds good, man. I'm excited for you. You got a great future ahead of you.
Thanks, bro.